Feminists try to convince us that being a man in America is easy. They call it male privilege, but the reality couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is that being a man in America absolutely sucks, or at least it can. Why do I say that? Well, I have many reasons for saying this. I am not trying to be a downer when I say this, but I'm simply trying to offer a perspective that is against the mainstream narrative which says men are oppressors and women are the victims. I don't agree with this line of thinking at all. And in fact, I think this line of thinking is downright sexist to its core. This belief perpetuates mythology and engenders hatred between men and women. It offers an overly simplistic view of a very complex and nuanced reality. The reality, or at least a big and ignored part of reality, is that men are not as privileged as so many people, especially women, think we are. We have our own struggles, which most people have only an inkling of an idea about. Even when these people acknowledge men's struggles, it is only done in the context of men being the fault of their struggles. In other words, if men are facing any problems, it's because they brought it on themselves. These people cannot conceive of any possibility that our society is set up in such a way so as to give men many disadvantages and problems which are vastly or completely out of our control. We don't like to think of men as weak, even though we constantly berate them for not sharing how they feel. When men share their feelings, they are seen as weak. Even though we tell men to open up and share, which I do agree with, many people, especially women, see this as a sign of weakness. Now, one can argue that maybe some men go to the extreme and emotionally dump everything, which can make them look weak. Fair enough. But despite the fact that we live in a so-called progressive and open society, men are still held to traditional standards, like being stoic, that women simply aren't held to. This puts men in a tough spot, being stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a situation where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If this is a sign of male privilege, then I don't want to be privileged. I'd rather be oppressed. Men are more likely to end themselves, more likely to be in prison and violently assaulted, more likely to be held back in education and get college degrees, work more dangerous jobs on average, and much more. This isn't evidence of men having a superior status in society solely based on the fact that they're men. What most feminists do is look at the top performing males in society and generalize their privileges to most men, which is an egregious thing to do in the social sciences and in statistics. Yet we never as a society challenge this fallacious assumption, but instead continue to believe in this fairy tale mythology and punish men based not on what they're doing, but based on what angry and bitter women in academia, the media, and politics think of them. As a culture, I propose we start to ignore what bitter people at the top think and instead focus on implementing common sense into our lives. Why bother listening to people who are oftentimes out of touch with reality and whose main goal is to divide the general population, pitting us against each other in order to gather in more cash for themselves? We should reject this narrative that males are the oppressors and females are the oppressed, because it's simply not true. At least definitely not true in 2024. We've progressed so far in terms of gender inequality that we've actually swung the other direction to where we prioritize female interests way more than male interests. This is what the enemy wants, and this is what we as a society must abjectly reject. So that's it for this video. If you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share to get notified about more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.